I used to think that burnout came from doing just too much. That exhaustion, that stress, that overwhelm, that burnout that comes was from just doing too much. That, exhaustion or anything like that meant that I needed some better time management or more discipline or some sort of tougher mindset to push through these sort of things. But here's what I learned, and I would love to share it with you because I had to learn it the hard way, and I'm hoping you don't have to. Most of the time, burnout, it isn't from overwork at all. It's actually more about doing too little of what lights you up and way too much of the things that drain you completely. And so that's why today we're diving into how you reclaim your gifts and superpowers, rediscover those sort of things so you can make the impact you're born to make and that you should be making in life at this point, without the burnout that goes with it. So we're going to dive deep into that today. Of course, let me start by saying, because I always make sure at the top of the videos I say, welcome to the Giver Method channel. Of course, my name is Jake, and I'm glad that you're able to be here. So let me ask some questions that might frame it up a little bit or make it stick for you a little bit what we're talking about. Have you noticed that some tasks leave you strangely energized and lit up, even if it took tons of effort, while others that may seem easy to yourself or to others leave you completely wiped out? Or maybe you felt that deep, I'll even call it bone deep exhaustion, that a good night's sleep doesn't actually fix, the kind where you're not technically overworked, but you're still running on empty. Or maybe you've caught yourself feeling like you're living someone else's life, playing the roles everyone expects from you, but, losing touch of who you actually are along the way. Now, if any of that hits home for you, then let me make sure that you hear me clearly. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not lazy, you're not weak, it's not a mindset problem. Again, you're definitely not asking for too much. You're probably experiencing this thing I always like to call to and refer to as performance fatigue. And that's that exhaustion that comes from constantly being who you think everyone else needs you to be instead of operating from your authentic strengths and your natural gifts. For parents, it might look like your entire identity has collapsed into being mom or being dad. You're managing the carpools, the meals, the routines, while the playful or creative or strategic parts of you sit on the sidelines. As an entrepreneur, it may look like building your business that you thought would bring you freedom, but funny that you only realize it's running you. You're operating excellent, but your energy is on empty. Or maybe you're an employee who's the dependable one. You always get it done. You're the go-to person for that. While your real strengths are invisible, and your role is on this task-driven thing, not talent-defined, and that's draining to you. It's not about any sort of problem or being ungrateful. It's not about being unrealistic. It's about realizing that sustainable energy doesn't come from more willpower. It comes from this alignment with who you are. So we're going to dive deep into that today. Naturally, everything we cover is grounded in my book it's called The Giver Method. Came out last November. Since coming out, it's become an Amazon bestseller, has tons of 5-star reviews. I will put a link in the description where you can go get access to it on Amazon, because right now you can get it for as low as $2, $1.99. That's the best $2 you can invest in yourself. I highly recommend that you grab yourself a copy. Like I said, what we'll cover today, there are bits and pieces in here, but what people love, and the reason why people just dive into it, is that it's grounded in my story with action items and exercises that fit that sort of a life. So my story is a lot like yours. I've walked a very similar path. I'm a parent of 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked in that corporate world, that sea of cubicles that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And so I know that you can't just burn everything down and start over. You can't just move to the woods to go find yourself. And so because of that, everything in here, all the action items, exercise, the things you could go do, start making an impact, are meant to be done in the life that you're already living without having to restructure everything. So I highly recommend, get yourself a copy. Like I said, it's the best $2 you can invest in yourself. Go through it. Let me know what your takeaways are, because it had such an amazing impact on so many people. I mean, like I said, I'll never forget one of the stories I cover in there is one that really lands true in here, and it's I call it the sea of cubicles moment, where I was in a corporate job, and playing the part of the model employee, and on paper, if you looked at it, I had everything that I was supposed to have. I was doing great, all the check boxes, great family, great work, great benefits, all that sort of thing. But inside, the things that made me feel alive were completely just dying and withering away. And then one day, I volunteered to help this organization, and I was using my natural gifts. I was just kind of going through simplifying some chaos, connecting with people, building systems. And it was the first time in months I walked away more energized than when I started. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't exhausted. I was, because of the hard work. I wasn't exhausted for that. I was exhausted because I was working against my design, the things that are just so natural to me. And of course, the book and everything I cover, I love to ground it in science and data and research, because there's a bunch out there that show that people who regularly use their signature strengths they're going to report 37% higher life satisfaction and 40% less depression. All right, less anxieties, less depressions. Like, let's translate that, okay? Your gifts, they're not just these nice to haves. They are the primary energy source that determines your life satisfaction, happiness, delight, fulfillment, and decreases all those negative energies around you. And the truth is, most people, like, they just miss this idea that authenticity, it really does create the vitality that you need. Like, while performancing, putting on the show for everyone because it's the role you think you're supposed to play, creates more exhaustion. And so today, what I want to do is I want to walk you through like 5 essential strategies, principles, kind of areas of focus that help busy parents and entrepreneurs and employees like you stop like just surviving on willpower and start running through things on your natural energy. And they're not fluffy, feel good, woo-woo ideas. Like, these are like truthfully practical tools that people just like you have put into place, put into their lives and been able to do so, and see this drastic change. And they fit into your life no matter how busy or stretched or overwhelmed you may feel. It's not about quitting the job, like I said. It's not about blowing up life. It's about realizing that what feels easy and natural to you is like actually valuable and needed by others, and learning to bring those gifts into the roles that you already have. And like I said, everything's going to be grounded in the book, The Giver Method, because truthfully, when you rediscover and activate these natural superpowers, you stop trying to perform for people in those roles that you take on, you finally start creating more sustainable impact that really energizes you instead of depletes you. So, like I said, you can grab a copy in the link down below. Get it on Amazon. It's packed with all the ways to help you identify and activate your gifts without burnout. Now, if you're tired of running on empty and you want someone on your side to help support you and coach you through that type of stuff, then check out the link below. I've got a page about coaching. Check out the coaching program, see if it makes sense for you to maybe jump on a call and discuss what that could look like for you. And of course, if you have a team, a podcast, an event, some sort of a thing that people gathering, you're like, man, this type of a topic would hit home for them. This is one of the most popular ones that I speak on. And so I'd love to bring it to your people in a very real and practical way. There's a link about speaking and podcasting down below. And of course, please hit subscribe, tap that bell for notifications. Don't want you to miss out on the future content we have. Of course, leave your comments along the way of what lands for you. Like the video, all that sort of stuff, all the YouTube-y things that they want you to do. So, all right, let's dive in. Let's start reclaiming your superpowers that you've been waiting for, but man, you can finally start noticing them and start using them in real time to bring that energy and authenticity. And so the first strategy is you track your fuel and you got to go fix the leak. So think of this almost like your when you balance your checkbook or your ledger, it's like your energy ledger. Because if we want to be real, most of us spend way more time doing things that quietly drain us and not nearly enough of those things that are going to light us up more and more every day. I mean, I don't mean like Netflix or the weekend nap, to rebuild energy or whatever. I mean the kinds of activities that leave you feeling more alive, more yourself, and somehow more energized when you're done, even if they took some effort to go do. And that's where this idea of an energy ledger comes from. It shifts the focus from managing hours to managing what really matters to you, your energy. Because when you can go through and mark off everything on your calendar, check all the boxes that you need to do for the tasks at the end, and at the end of the day, still feel empty that you didn't get anything done. And the ledger, it's going to show us why. So here's how it works. I want you to track for maybe a week. You can track these energy levels. Every 2 to 3 hours, I want you to jot down a quick score, and this is going to be your energy score. And you're going to rate it on a scale of -3 to +3. -3 would be hey, during this last 2-3 hours, it was these were things that were major energy drains. A 0 is hey, these are things that just they were kind of neutral. And then the +3 would be the things where I had major gain in energy as a part of that. Capture the context, not just the number. Note 3 things each time that you're doing that. Okay, well, what were you doing? Who were you with? What type of activity was it? Were you planning, teaching, creating, problem solving, administrative, logistics, etc., whatever it may be? Just fill in the blank. And then watch for the all day versus that took everything moments. If you put special attention to when you're helping or solving something for someone else, notice the difference between finishing a conversation and thinking man, I could do that all day long versus man, that took everything out of me. Notice where time flies, because that's where you're genuinely engaged. That's where minutes fly by, versus where minutes feel like they're crawling so slowly. And at the end of the week, you're going to create 2 honest lists: your energy givers and your energy drains. Look for the patterns. Like, do you feel better after explaining something clearly to a coworker, or after organizing some chaos into some sort of a simple system, after you encourage someone through that tough moment, after designing or teaching or coaching or fixing or storytelling, whatever it may be? These are the things that built me up. These are the things that drain me. Those patterns, they're not random. The ones that are building you up are your natural gifts hiding in plain sight. Parents, like reading bedtime story with voices, like, turning chores into games, or coaching through a meltdown might fill your tank. Entrepreneurs, like whiteboarding a solution with a client or shaping some sort of messy idea into a clean offer could leave you buzzing long after a call is done. And employees, like, mentoring someone else on your team or simplifying the clunky process, presenting a clear plan, like any of those could energize you, more than blasting through emails ever would. People who try to recover energy with more rest, and just rest, that's what most of us do. Like, rest matters, but what you really need is alignment. When you understand what actually fuels you, you can start designing your days to feature more of these energy-giving activities, that you're also using to serve other people, which that's not selfish, it's sustainable. You can't pour from an empty cup, but you can build rhythms that refill your cup, like, while you're pouring. And then keep every data point, follow the patterns, make sure like these small shifts, over time give you even more life. That's how you stop running on fumes and start running with more purpose. Now it takes us into the second area, which is like, we got to learn how to spot the strengths that you've buried under the stress and routine. So think about this, like, we're going to be digging up these hidden gifts that you have. And a big reason so many capable people feel like they're just burnt out isn't because they don't have what it takes. It's because these natural gifts, the things that are so natural to you, like, they've been buried under these years of being in a survival mode. That's just what happens between the school deadlines, the career ladders, the parenting duties, and being the responsible one for people, right? Like, those parts of you that once felt alive have been shoved down, or maybe almost forgotten what they actually were. And so, like, that's sort of a gift, superpower, strength, amnesia, and so the things that just came so naturally to you feel so ordinary that you stop recognizing them as having any value for people. Maybe you shrug it off, like your ability to calm the chaos, as like, I'm just helping out, or you minimize your knack for spotting solutions as like, well, this is just common sense, anybody should be able to do it. Like, you wave away your gift of encouraging others as like just being nice to people. But here's the reality, like, those aren't random. Like, they're not random quirks that you have. They're your actual gifts that can be developed into superpowers. And like, they've just been waiting for you to go pick them back up, dig them back up, and put them back to work. And so that's where this, like, doing this gift dig, like, archaeology sort of comes in. Like, doing a little detective work to uncover the strengths that you've buried under the stress and routines of life. So let's talk about how you do that. And I love this topic because, the G in the GIVER method is actually about finding your gifts, your superpowers. Like, this is such an important topic for me. So start with like your own life clues. Ask yourself, like, what do people consistently maybe thank me for, come to me for? What kind of problems do people bring to me that they can't solve themselves, but maybe seem easy to me? What activities do I do that I lose track of time on? In like the best way. When I finish doing something, like, or I'm helping someone and I think like, man, that was easy, and they're saying like, how on earth did you do that? Like, look at those, write them down, jot down all what those may be, because they're gonna start pointing you towards what they are. Then go get outside perspective. Maybe you reach out to 3 to 5 people, family or friends or colleagues, and you ask them 2 questions, like, what would you come to me for help with? And when have you seen me solve a problem in a way that stood out to you? The key is, like, don't edit their answers, right? Exactly word for word what they say. Often they'll reflect back, gifts that you've been blind to because they come so naturally. And then study your stress. Like, this is, like, it might be a surprise to you, but like, your biggest frustrations, the things that just drive you crazy, are actually can point you right towards hidden gifts that you have. Like, if disorganization just drives you nuts, odds are that you've got some sort of a gift for creating systems. If you're constantly irritated when people aren't clear, like, you've got a gift of bringing clarity and translation. Your stress often reveals like what you're wired to go fix. These gifts, like, they aren't things that you have to go earn or develop over years of learning. Like, they're not new skills that you have to go grind out. They're already inside you. They've been waiting for you to be recognized and start intentionally activating them, because trust me, you are the only person that has your unique combination of gifts and superpowers and experiences, which means that you are the only person who can make the impact in the world that you can make right now. No one else can, because no one else has that same combination, and they're just waiting for you. gosh, when you stop like dismissing these natural strengths as like the just who I am, you start seeing them as your actual superpowers. You can use them on purpose in your family, your work, your business, community, all over the place. And here's the bonus to all that. Like, not only does it create more value for others, but it also energizes you as a part of the process. Because the truth is, your greatest contribution to the world doesn't come from the roles that you perform in. It's from the gifts that you allow yourself to bring to the table and give freely. And that takes us to the third principle, all right? How you bring your gifts into life that you already have. So think of it this way. I always call it the 10-minute superpower switch, all right? And let's be real. The one thing I hear people, like, when they finally start recognizing what their gift is they're like, Jake, I don't have the time to figure it out, like, myself right now. And honestly, like, I get it. That's why we have a coaching program. But between parenting and working, running a business, whatever, like, we're just trying to keep the lights on. It feels impossible to add one more thing to what you already have on an overflowing plate. But there's a secret that maybe you should know. You don't need extra time. You don't have to overhaul your life. You don't need to press pause on your responsibilities. What you need is just to shift your approach. And that's this idea of like the 10-minute superpower switch. It's about, how do I embed the gifts that I already have into what I'm already doing? How do I turn the routine obligations into moments of authentic expression? Not any sort of addition, but integration. And so here's some ways that we make this work. Each morning, ask yourself the simple question, like, what's one way I can bring one of my natural strengths into something I already do? That's it. Like, not overcomplication, no waiting until I've got the free weekend or whatever, just one strength into one task for one day. For parents, that might be like, you're naturally good at storytelling at bedtime, and instead of rushing through it like a routine, maybe you bring your humor into the morning chaos when everyone's cranky and running late. Maybe you're leaning on your organization skills to create family systems that actually like reduce stress. If you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're using your gift for like connection when you write that next client email. Maybe you're applying problem-solving instincts to unclog your business's bottleneck, or bring your big picture thinking, like product development, instead of like drowning in busy work that you have. As an employee, like, it might be as simple as using your encouragement gift to lift a coworker through a tough week, or applying some sort of analytical mind that you have to a project and showing your team a different approach, or using your natural teaching side to explain new processes to way people actually understand. Whatever it is, there's all sorts of ways you could just put it into what you're already doing. Now, here's the kicker. Track what you're doing. Write it down. Keep a note on your phone. Write down a journal, whatever. Like, just write down when you use your gift, how it impacted you and the people around you. And pretty soon you're going to start to notice like this crazy thing. Those little 10-minute activations become some of the most energizing and memorable moments of your day. Because like these small intentional acts of authenticity are the building blocks of your identity. I mean, every time that you lean on that sort of a gift, like you are like casting a vote to your real self of who you are. You're rewriting your own story from like, hey, I just grind out on this willpower, I just got to get through it, to like, I can create impact through my natural strengths, through the stuff I'm already doing day to day. And the beautiful part, like, that I see time and time again, is once you start stacking those on top of each other, you don't just feel more like yourself, you become more like yourself. Like, you identify, like, you have this identity shift that creates this lasting energy and confidence and real impact to the people around you. And that, of course, it is going to lead us into the fourth area, which is how you shift from, like, I call it the performance mode into authentic contribution. So please drop the act and let's bring the real you to every situation. Because the sneaky way that energy starts to drain out is being in this performance mode, where you constant like pressure that you have to act like a version of yourself that you think people need or expect. The perfect parent who never loses their cool, the business owner always crushing it, the employee who is forever dependable but never like ruffled by anything. The truth is, like, performance mode is truly exhausting. Like, it's not because the roles themselves are bad, but because but because they're fake to you. You're spending this massive amount of energy holding up an image that's not you, instead of actually creating value. You're hiding your real perspectives. You're stuffing down your natural responses. You're forcing yourself into molds that you were never truly designed for. And so you can break out of that, get out of this like performance mode and into like your authentic version of yourself. It's not about like, swinging to some sort of other extreme or being reckless or selfish. It's just about, well, how do you recognize that your real you and your gifts, your natural instincts and your natural strengths? Like, that's going to be way more valuable than any role or performance that you could put on. So think about it this way, like some different ways to approach it. The first one is like, start trying to be more authentic with little experiments. Maybe you're going to pick one situation where maybe you usually show up as just the role or the performance, and you test showing up more like yourself. With a friend, instead of just smiling and saying I'm fine, share the real struggle that you're working through. In a meeting, maybe instead of parroting what every other one is saying, people want you to hear, like, give your genuine perspective. At home, instead of like forcing yourself into someone else's like way of solving a problem, just go with your natural style. And then of course, just start small in low risk settings. Watch what happens. Like 9 times out of 10, people will lean in. They'll trust more. They'll connect with you deeper. And you're going to notice that, like, in things that maybe you used to have that were draining you, now as you're being more authentic with them, you're giving yourself energy back, while the performance, would have taken so much of that away. And then you can always try the idea of putting your gifts first in communication. So instead of leading with, what you think people expect, lead with what you're naturally good at. If encouragement comes easy to you, start by encouraging. If clarity is your gift, start with clear thinking. If creativity is your thing, like, bring the fresh ideas to the table. When you stop, leading with the same act, and you start leading with your gifts, man, everything feels lighter, easier, and more natural. Authenticity is sustainable. Performance is going to be completely exhausting to you. So when you stop burning energy on pretending to be something else, you can start fueling your life with what's real. And what's going to happen is you feel more alive, and people finally get to experience the real you, and that version they remember and respect, and they want more of. They want to be around more. And that takes us to the 5th and final area. All right. This is how you create systems where your gifts will help others and refuel you. Build this fuel, for impact loop that you need. The thing that so many people miss is, like, you don't choose between taking care of yourself and serving others. Like, there's not a choice there. The reality is that when you serve through your natural gifts, it doesn't drain you. It's going to refuel you. And so these fuel impact loops, are these simple systems you build into life where you're using your gifts not only to create value for others, but you're also giving yourself energy back as a part of that process. So think of them as different rhythms or patterns that just feel naturally you're going to fill you up. So the first thing is, like, spot what's your highest impact gifts. The abilities that you've got that just make, a difference when you bring them forward. Think about the moments when your contribution has been, game changers for people. Whether it's encouragement or clarity, problem solving, creativity, or organization, or whatever, fill in the blank. The second thing is, like, look for recurring opportunities. Don't think of it as like, hey, I'm adding more to my plate. Like, instead, like, look at the roles you already have and ask, like, where could I weave my gifts in more constantly? As a parent, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, there's so many areas where that comes into play. And then the third thing is, like, protect your rhythm. Don't treat these loops, these places where you're starting to impact and put more of yourself into them, like, don't put them as like optional extras. Like, guard them like they're an important meeting, because these aren't just for others to experience, they're for you too. The consistency and alignment together, when you show up with regular ways to feel like that fit your wiring, you stop burning your energy through performance. You start generating energy through this authenticity. People are living in a constant state of depletion, giving in ways that cost them way more than it returns. But when you design these fuel loops, these things we've talked about today, into your life, you stop serving from an empty tank and start serving from an overflow, which means everybody wins: your family, your clients, your team, and you as well. And so the thing I want you to take away from today is, like, you don't have to blow up your life to feel alive again. You don't need a new career, new family, or new identity. What you need is to rediscover the superpowers that you already carry and weave them back into the life that you're already living. Like, burnout isn't always about doing too much. More often, it's just about doing too little of the stuff that's going to light you up and bring you energy. And the truth is that when you operate from your natural gifts instead of muscling through with willpower, your world shifts, your energy comes back, your impact grows, and you start feeling like you're not running on fumes just to get through the day. If you think about it, you track these energy, you dip into your gifts, you activate them in small ways, you choose to be authentic over performance and build in those loops. It's not just a bunch of techniques. It's a whole new way of living. It's proof that you don't need to choose between responsibility and being authentic. You can honor both. And here's a big insight that I don't want you to miss. Stop measuring your success by how much you get done. Start measuring by how sustainable and energizing it feels by doing it. Because when you align even parts of your life with your natural design, you're not just avoiding burnout, you're creating this renewable energy that is going to pay off in the long haul. That's the heartbeat of the whole idea of the GIVER method. You know, like your gifts, these things that we're going to teach you about, they aren't luxuries to be explored someday. They're your main source of energy and impact. Like when you just stop performing, start contributing from where you really are, you don't just survive, you thrive. And so if that hits home for you today, then that's where, go grab a copy of the book. The link is down below. Get it on Amazon, The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. Like I said, it's going to be the most practical way for you to rediscover and activate your gifts without burning yourself out. You know, if you're running on empty and you looking for some more personal support, check out the one-on-one coaching link down below and learn about the details of what that looks like. And if it makes sense, let's book a call and talk about it. And if you lead a team, run a podcast, host an event, whatever it may be, have some sort of a stage that you think a message like this could serve your people, then let's connect, because I'd love to bring it to your audience in a way that is like practical and authentic and really transformational. Of course, like, don't forget as we go, like, hit subscribe to the channel, tap that bell for notifications, like the video, and comment below. Like, I'd love to hear which of these things maybe stood out to you as, or maybe the thing you're excited to go try. You know, just remember this, your superpowers aren't hiding. They're already inside you, waiting for you to notice and activate them, you know, and really put them to work in a new way. Stop trying to perform your way through life in these roles that you've taken on. Start contributing from who you really are. That's when everything changes. You're the only person with your unique combination of gifts and superpowers and experiences. You're the only person who can make the impact that you're born to make. So go out and do that, because the world's waiting for you. I promise you, you will see such a drastic change in your life, so much more energy and more fulfillment day to day when you do that. And so with that, hopefully we'll catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you real soon.